I'm ready to start the Candy Cane Lane bench pillow. I prepped all of my fabric in a video several months ago, and I'm going to go ahead and add it to this video, but I show how I prep all of the fabric and how I get ready before I start a project. I also have my book bound at a copy store. This one I needed to print off versus the book coming with the CD. This was actually just a CD, and when you download and save your files, it comes with the instructions. So I just printed them out, and I had a copy center add clear covers and a coil binding, so it's easier to look through. And then of course, I will show in this video how I prep all of my packets. I do a packet for each block, so they're easy just to pull and get started. I also have all of my thread ready, and I will list all the colors that I'm using in the description. So let's get started on the Kimberbell Candy Cane Lane bench pillow. Today I thought I would do a quick video on how I prep my batting and my fabrics for the Kimberbell projects. Kimberbell makes a product called Project Batting, but today I'll be using warm and natural cotton batting. Normally the batting will be cut a little bit larger than needed. The machine will run a placement line for the batting. You will place the batting down, and the machine will run a tack down stitch. Then you will trim the excess batting away. I elect to cut my batting exactly to size. This way it saves me time from trimming the excess batting and also saves on material. Today I'm cutting out batting for 4 Kimberbell projects. The way I determine the batting sizes is by looking at the quilting size of each block. You can also look at the trimming instructions for the finished block. In this example, the finished block will measure 4.5 by 6.5. We will deduct to 1/2 inch, and our batting will be cut to 4 by 6, which is the same as the quilting size. I've gone through each set of the instructions for the 4 Kimberbell projects, and I've listed the sizes of batting that I need. Then I've made a tally so I can have a total amount, and I will be cutting these all together. Looking at the list, I have lots of blocks that will be 6-inch or 8-inch wide. We'll start with that size of batting. Since I'm using a large amount of batting, I need to cut down into more manageable pieces. I will be cutting through 4 layers of batting, so I will cut the strips just a little bit bigger than our finished size. I will start by cutting a strip 6.25 inch and then 8.25 inch. Now I will open up the strip to just 1 layer, and I will cut to size. So I will cut this strip to 6 inches wide. Here are my 6-inch and 8-inch strips ready to go. I will start by cutting the 6 by 6 inch squares. I have a 6-inch ruler, and I will cut 7 pieces. Now I'll cut a 6 by 12 inch and 2 6 by 10 inch pieces. Next I'll cut 5 2 by 6 inch pieces. This is all that's left of the 6-inch strip. It's not quite large enough to do a 6 by 8 inch piece, so I'll set it aside and see if I can use it a little bit later. Let's move on to the 8-inch strip. I will take a single layer and size it to exactly 8 inches. Let's work on the 6 by 8 inch pieces. We need to cut 11. Now we'll cut 3 4x8 pieces. With the 2 end pieces, let's see if we can get a couple more sizes. Let's start with a 4x10" piece. Now we can get 2 4x6" pieces. We need 13, but we can get 2 out of this end strip. Now we can cut 1 2x2" piece. This is all the batting we have left from our first 2 strips. Now we need to cut a 4" strip to finish off all of our batting. We will start by cutting through 4 layers, and we will cut 4 1/4 inch. Then we will go to a single layer and trim it down exactly to 4 inches. We'll start by cutting our 4x4" pieces. We need 4. Now we need the remaining 4x6" pieces. We cut 2 from the end piece, and now we need 11 more, for a total of 13. These are the only pieces of batting we have left out of our 3 strips. The only batting that I didn't cut for any of these projects are for the borders. I usually do that when I'm closer to the end of the quilt. To keep the batting organized until I put the blocks into the organizing packets, I will list the size on a Post-it note and clip with the Jumbo Wonder Clip to the batting. Now let's work on prepping our fabric. I'll be cutting out the Candy Cane Lane bench pillow. All Kimberbell projects come with a chart that lists the fabric, the size needed, the block it will be used for, and the size. This chart helps whether you're using a Kimberbell fabric kit or using fabric from your own stash or purchasing fabric. Kimberbell also includes fabric cutting diagrams. It shows a swatch of the fabric and the size needing to be cut from that fabric. It also has a layout so that you can get the most use out of your fabric. If you purchase the embellishment kit from Kimberbell, you'll get extras like glitter, mylar, clear vinyl, cork, felt, embroidery topping, maybe some 3D elements or buttons, lots of things that will finish the kit off. However, you can source these on your own or use things from your stash. Also, I do not cut my embellishments to size. I just use them from the piece that are in the kit. I usually start with the smallest pieces just to get those done. I cut them pretty much the same way I cut batting. I use my ruler and cut the size needed. I will follow the fabric cutting diagram and put my smaller fabrics into order, just so it's easier to keep track of what I'm cutting. Let's walk through the first piece of fabric. The first 2 pieces on the left-hand side need to be 3½ inches wide by 4 3/4. So I will cut 1 strip of the red fabric 3½ inches wide. The next 2 pieces have 1 at 3½ inches wide and 1 at 4 inches wide. So I will cut a 4-inch wide strip. I'll take the first 3½ inch strip and subcut those into 2 4 3/4 inch pieces. Next, I'll take the 4-inch strip and subcut the 5-inch piece. The last piece will measure 3.5 by 4.5 inches, and I will trim that to size. This is how all the rest of the fabric will be cut. I didn't pre-iron any of the fabrics because they are relatively smooth. I will iron them prior to putting the interfacing on the back. Let's cut the rest of the kit. I made a mistake when I was cutting the light cream fabric. Luckily, Kimberbell is generous with their fabric, and I have enough to cut the correct size. I was looking at the cutting diagram for the darker beige. Let's keep going. When I pulled out my gray and white polka dot fabric, I realized my kit did not have the correct amount. I had purchased the kit on Etsy because this is an older kit and was not available in my fabric store. So I'm home from the mountains and went to my local fabric store who sells Kimberbell fabric on the bolts, and luckily I was able to find this light gray polka dot print. Here we have all of our fabric for the candy cane lane bench pillow cut. I didn't cut the border fabric or the backing fabric. I will do that when we're ready to put the quilt together. Here's the rest of the material that I have left. It's almost enough to do an entire project. Now let's back all of our fabric pieces with woven iron-on interfacing. I'll first press the fabric just to make sure that it is wrinkle-free. I'll also use best press when ironing on the interfacing. I buy interfacing on a roll. It's 12 inches by 10 yards. I lay it out with the adhesive side facing up, and then I will just put my pieces down as close together as I can get them. I will lightly tack down the fabric just to get it to hold to the interfacing. This will allow me to cut each piece out. Then I will lightly spray with best press and press according to the directions, which is usually about 10 to 15 seconds with heavy pressure. I use both hands to get enough pressure to adhere the interfacing. On this piece, I must have had a small piece of the interfacing sticking out, and my iron melted and smushed up this piece of fabric. I sprayed it with best press and smoothed it out with my hand and ironed it really, really well. Let's finish the last few pieces. You can see in the corner of this larger background fabric, I pressed a crease in the corner. But because I initially only lightly attached the interfacing, I can simply pull the corner back, smooth it out, and press. After spraying with best press and pressing the iron-on interfacing, this is the difference between the fabrics. Here is all of our fabric ready to go for our candy cane lane bench pillow. After I downloaded the CD onto my computer, I printed up the instructions. I took it to a copy store and had them bind it and add a plastic cover on the front and the back to protect it. I have the clear organizing packets, my fabric, my embellishment kit, some tape and a Sharpie, and my batting that I cut. The first thing I'll do is put aside the pieces of the embellishment kit that won't be used until the very end of the quilt. Then I'll put the rest of the embellishments into an organizing packet. I mentioned earlier that I don't cut the embellishments to size. Kimberbell gives you quite a bit, and you're able to use them for other projects if you don't cut them to size. When a block calls for an embellishment, I will just pull the packet and pull the items that I need to use. Then I'll put them back into the packet. Let's start with the first block in the book, which is the Street Lamp 1. This block will use background fabric and batting. That's all we need to pull from the fabric that we cut and prepped. The rest of the block uses the embellishments from the embellishment kit. So when it's time to stitch this block, I'll pull that packet and take the embellishments out that I need and use them to stitch this block. I'll write the page number, the name of the block, and put that onto the organizing packet. The next block is the cocoa stand. We'll pull the background fabric, the batting, and the brown fabric. Those are the 3 pieces we need for this. I'll mark the page number and name of the block, and this packet's ready to go. Let's move on to our next block, the red house. We have a lot of fabric cut, and some of the sizes are very similar to each other. And sometimes it's hard to tell which fabric is being used from the little tiny picture. If you ever have a question of which piece goes to which block, look on the chart that has the sample fabrics, and it will give you the name of the block it's used on and the size. We'll continue this process until all the blocks are finished. I didn't need that last little piece of brown fabric. That should have been in our extra fabric when we cut. All the blocks are finished. Now the rest of the fabric are for the borders. Let's put those into one packet. The last thing we need to do is put the remaining embellishments that will be used at the end of the project into an organizing packet. Everything's organized and ready to go when it's time to stitch out our candy cane lane bench pillow.